Hey there, awesome viewer. Before we dive in, have you ever been judged for your job or how you look? Like maybe someone thought you weren't important because of your clothes or what you do. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from today. Oh, and if you love stories where someone surprising turns out to be super cool, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. It was a regular Monday morning at Skyline Tech. The building was super tall, with big glass windows that sparkled in the sun. Inside, it was like a busy anthill. People in fancy suits rushed around, talking loud, carrying shiny laptops, and acting like they were the bosses of everything. Their shoes clicked on the clean floors, and their voices echoed in the hallways. Everyone seemed to have a big ego, thinking they were the most important person in the room. But there was one guy who didn't fit in with all the noise and flash. His name was Sam Carter. Sam was the janitor. He wore a plain gray uniform that looked a little worn out, with a name tag that just said Sam in small letters. He pushed a big mop across the shiny floor, cleaning up coffee spills, crumbs, and bits of paper that people dropped without caring. To most folks at Skyline Tech, Sam was like a shadow. They didn't even see him. He was just the guy who made the floors sparkle and the trash cans empty. If they noticed him at all, they'd give him a quick glance like he was part of the furniture, not a real person. Sam didn't mind though, or at least he didn't show it. He'd push his mop in long, slow strokes, humming a little tune to himself. His hands were strong and his eyes were sharp, always watching. He'd nod politely when someone passed by, but most people didn't nod back. They were too busy talking about their big meetings or their fancy deals. To them, Sam was nobody special, just the janitor, just the guy who cleaned up their messes. But here's the thing, Sam wasn't who they thought he was. Nope, not even close. Behind that plain uniform and quiet smile, Sam had a secret, a big one. A secret so huge it could flip Skyline Tech upside down and make everyone's jaws drop. Nobody at the company had any idea, not the workers in their suits, not the managers with their loud voices, not even the big boss who thought he ran the whole show. Sam's secret was like a hidden treasure tucked away, waiting for the perfect moment to shine. And that moment, it was coming soon. Every morning, Sam got to work early. He'd unlock the big glass doors before the sun was even up. He'd wheel his cleaning cart through the empty hallways, the wheels squeaking just a little. He'd dust the desks, empty the trash, and make sure every corner of Skyline Tech was spotless. Sometimes he'd find little things people left behind, a pen, a sticky note, a coffee cup with lipstick on the rim. He picked them up carefully like they were clues in a mystery, and maybe they were. Sam didn't just clean, he watched, he listened. He noticed things nobody else did. Like the way people treated each other. The workers in suits were always in a hurry, barking orders or laughing at jokes that weren't funny. They'd leave their lunches on the floor, knowing Sam would clean it up. They'd toss papers without looking, letting them flutter like leaves. One guy, a manager named Mr. Bradley, was the worst. He'd walk by Sam and say things like, "Hey janitor, don't miss that spot," with a mean laugh. Sometimes he'd drop his coffee cup right in front of Sam just to make him bend down and pick it up. Sam would do it, but he'd keep his eyes on Bradley like he was studying him. Bradley didn't notice, but Sam's eyes said something. They said, "You don't know who I am." Sam wasn't mad though, not on the outside. He'd smile a little, mop the floor, and keep going. But inside, Sam was like a superhero hiding his cape. He wasn't just a janitor. He was someone important, someone powerful, someone who could change everything at Skyline Tech. Nobody knew it yet, but they would. Oh, they would. The office wasn't always so mean. Sam remembered when Skyline Tech was smaller, friendlier. Back then, people said thank you when he cleaned. They'd ask about his day or share a cookie from the break room. But now it was all about who had the biggest office or the shiniest car. People like Bradley ran the show, acting like kings, while people like Sam were pushed to the side. It made Sam's heart a little heavy, but it also made him strong. He knew something they didn't. He knew the truth about himself, and that truth was like a fire in his chest, keeping him going. Sometimes, Sam would take a break in the storage room. It was a small, quiet place filled with brooms and buckets. He'd sit on an old chair, sip some water, and think. He'd pull out a tiny notebook from his pocket, one nobody ever saw. He'd write little notes in it, things he noticed about the company, like how Bradley yelled at a worker for being late, or how someone left important papers in the trash by mistake. Sam's notebook was like a map of Skyline Tech, showing who was kind, who was mean, and who was hiding something. He didn't write much, just enough to remember. And every time he closed the notebook, he'd smile like he was playing a game only he understood. One day, a new worker named Mia stopped to talk to Sam. She was different from the others. She didn't wear a fancy suit, and she didn't act like she was better than everyone. "Hi," she said, smiling. "You're Sam, right? Thanks for keeping this place so clean." Sam looked up from his mop, surprised. Nobody thanked him anymore. "No problem," he said, his voice soft but warm. Mia tilted her head. "You seem different," she said, "like you know something." Sam just chuckled. "Maybe," he said, and went back to mopping. Mia walked away, curious, but she didn't push. Sam liked that. He added her name to his notebook with a little star next to it. That same day, Bradley was worse than usual. He stormed through the office, yelling about a big meeting. "This place is a mess," he shouted, even though Sam had just cleaned. He kicked a trash can, spilling paper everywhere. "Janitor," he barked, "fix this." Sam walked over, calm as ever, and picked up the mess. Bradley sneered. "That's all you're good for, huh?" Sam didn't answer, but his eyes flickered. Just for a second, they looked like they held a storm. Bradley didn't see it. He was too busy strutting away, thinking he was the king. But Sam wasn't just the janitor. He wasn't just the guy with the mop. He was someone nobody expected, someone who could turn the whole company upside down. Every coffee spill he cleaned, every mean word he heard, every note he wrote, it was all part of his plan. A plan nobody saw coming. A plan that would make everyone at Skyline Tech stop and stare. As the day went on, Sam kept working. He polished the windows until they gleamed. He swept the corners nobody noticed, and all the while he watched. He saw the workers whisper about Bradley's big meeting. He saw the nervous looks on their faces. He saw the way Bradley smirked like he thought he was untouchable. Sam didn't say a word, but his secret was growing like a balloon ready to pop. What was it? Who was Sam, really? And why was he pretending to be just a janitor? The sun started to set, painting the office orange. Sam pushed his cart to the storage room, his work almost done. He looked out at the busy office, at the people who didn't see him, and he smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one, like he knew something amazing was about to happen. Something that would make everyone rethink everything. Something that would show the world who Sam Carter really was. So what do you think? Is Sam just a janitor, or is he hiding something huge? Stick around, because this story is just getting started, and trust me, you won't believe what happens next. Don't forget to comment and tell me if you've ever met someone like Sam, someone who seemed ordinary but turned out to be extraordinary. And hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. Sam was used to the mean comments at Skyline Tech. Every day he'd push his mop across the shiny floors and someone would say something rude. The worst was Mr. Bradley, the company's hotshot manager. He thought he was the king of the office. "Hey, janitor, missed a spot," Bradley would shout, pointing at a clean floor with a big, nasty grin. Sometimes he'd toss a candy wrapper or a crumpled paper right in front of Sam just to watch him pick it up. "Know your place, buddy," he'd say, smirking like he was so clever. The other workers would laugh nervously or look away, too scared to say anything. They didn't want to make Bradley mad. But Sam, he never got upset, not on the outside anyway. He'd nod, grab his broom, and clean up the mess. His hands moved steady like he'd done this a million times. His eyes were sharp like a hawk watching everything. He'd look at Bradley not with anger, but with a quiet kind of knowing. It was like Sam had a secret, something big that Bradley couldn't even guess. And that made Bradley a little nervous, even if he didn't show it. Something about Sam's calm, steady way made the manager's smirk wobble just for a second. Skyline Tech was a busy place, full of people in fancy suits who thought they were super important. The office had big desks, bright lights, and walls made of glass that sparkled. Everyone was always rushing, talking about meetings and money. But Sam, in his plain gray janitor uniform, was like a ghost. People walked right past him, not even saying hi. If they spilled coffee, they'd leave it for Sam to clean. If they dropped a pen, they'd expect him to pick it up. To them, Sam was just the guy who made the office look nice. Nothing more. Bradley loved picking on Sam the most. He'd strut through the hallways, his shiny shoes clicking loud. His suit was always perfect, and his hair was slicked back like he was in a movie. He'd stop by Sam's cleaning cart and make a big show of finding something wrong. "This place is a pigsty," he'd yell, even if Sam had just scrubbed everything. One time he knocked over a whole stack of papers from a desk, right onto the floor Sam had just mopped. "Oops," Bradley said, laughing. "Better get to work, janitor." The workers nearby giggled, but their eyes looked scared. Nobody wanted to be Bradley's next target. Sam bent down, picking up the papers one by one. He didn't say a word. His face was calm like a still pond. But his eyes flicked up to Bradley just for a moment, and there was something in them, something strong, something that said, "I see you." Bradley didn't notice. He was too busy laughing, thinking he was so powerful, but Sam's quiet strength was like a puzzle Bradley couldn't solve. It bugged him, even if he wouldn't admit it. The other workers weren't much better. Some would whisper behind Sam's back, saying things like, "He's just a janitor, what does he know?" Others would ignore him completely, like he wasn't even there. One lady, Miss Carter, always left her lunch trash on her desk, knowing Sam would take it away. She'd smile at Bradley and the other managers, but she'd never smile at Sam. It was like he was invisible to her. The only person who was nice was Mia, the new worker. She'd say, "Thanks, Sam," when he cleaned her desk, but even Mia didn't know the real Sam. Nobody did. Every day, the mean words and rude actions piled up. Bradley would find new ways to make Sam's job harder. One morning, he accidentally spilled his coffee right in the middle of the hallway. The brown liquid splashed everywhere, making a big mess. "Clean it up, janitor," Bradley barked, walking away with a chuckle. Sam grabbed his mop and started cleaning, his movements slow and careful. The workers passing by didn't help. They just stepped over the mess, some of them snickering. But Sam kept going, his face blank but his eyes watching, always watching. What nobody knew was that Sam wasn't just cleaning floors. He was paying attention. He heard things, like when Bradley yelled at a worker for forgetting a report, or when Miss Carter gossiped about the company's big meeting. Sam's ears were like antennas, picking up every word. He'd see things, too, like the way Bradley stuffed papers in his briefcase looking snaky, or how the workers got quiet when Bradley walked by like they were afraid. Sam didn't miss a thing. And every night when the office was empty, he'd write in his little notebook. Just a few words, but they meant something, something important. Bradley's mean streak got worse as the days went on. One afternoon, he saw Sam sweeping near the break room and decided to have some fun. He grabbed a handful of sugar packets from the coffee station and tore them open, sprinkling sugar all over the floor. "Hey, janitor," he called, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're slacking, this floor's a mess." The workers in the break room laughed, some hiding their faces. Sam walked over, his broom in hand. He looked at the sugar, then at Bradley. For a split second, his eyes flashed like a storm was brewing inside him, but he didn't say anything. He just swept up the sugar, his hands steady as ever. Bradley leaned in, his voice low and mean. "You're nothing here, janitor, don't forget that." He expected Sam to look scared or ashamed, but Sam didn't. He stood up straight, his broom still in his hand, and looked Bradley right in the eye. There was no fear in Sam's face, just calm, just strength. Bradley blinked, surprised, then turned away, muttering something under his breath. For the first time, he looked a little unsure, like maybe, just maybe, Sam wasn't as small as he thought. Sam went back to work, but he was thinking. He knew Bradley was trouble. He knew the office was unfair. And he knew something else, something nobody else did. Sam wasn't just a janitor. He was someone with a secret, a plan, a power nobody at Skyline Tech could imagine. Every mean word, every spilled coffee, every smirk from Bradley, it was all adding up. And soon, very soon, Sam would show them all who he really was. The tension in the office was like a rubber band, stretched tight and ready to snap. Bradley thought he was in charge, but Sam's quiet strength was stronger than any of Bradley's loud words. Something big was coming, something that would make everyone stop and stare. But for now, Sam kept mopping, kept watching, and kept his secret close. Weeks went by at Skyline Tech, and Mr. Bradley got meaner than ever. He was like a bully who never stopped. He'd walk by Sam, the janitor, and accidentally bump into his cleaning cart, making brooms and buckets crash to the floor. "Oops, my bad," he'd say with a big fake laugh, but his eyes were cold. Sometimes he'd leave mean notes on Sam's locker in the storage room. One note, written in big angry letters, said, "You're nothing here, janitor." Another said, "Stay out of my way." The other workers saw the notes, but nobody said anything. They were too afraid of Bradley. He was the boss, and he acted like he owned the whole company. Sam didn't get mad, though. He didn't yell or cry or fight back. He'd just pick up his cart, fix the mess, or peel the notes off his locker without a word. His face was calm, like a quiet lake with no ripples, but Sam wasn't ignoring Bradley. Oh no, he was paying attention, really close attention. Every mean thing Bradley did, every rude word he said, Sam noticed it all. And he was starting to see other things too, things nobody else in the office cared about. Things that made Sam's secret feel even bigger. Sam started watching Bradley like a detective. He saw how Bradley cheated at his job. Sometimes Bradley would change numbers on important papers to make himself look better. He'd scribble over reports, fudging them so his mistakes didn't show. Other times, he'd yell at workers for no reason at all. "You're useless," he'd shout at someone who forgot one little thing. The workers would shrink, their faces red, while Bradley smirked like he was proud of himself. Sam saw it all. He'd mop the floor nearby, his ears open, his eyes sharp. And every time Bradley did something wrong, Sam would write it down in a little notebook he kept in his pocket. The notebook was small, with a plain black cover. Nobody ever saw it, not even Mia, the nice worker who sometimes thanked Sam for cleaning. Sam would wait until the office was empty late at night when all the workers had gone home. He'd sit in the storage room under a dim light and pull out his notebook. He'd write in tiny, neat letters, things like, "Bradley yelled at Tom today for a late report," or "Bradley hit a bad sales number." Each note was short, but together they were like pieces of a puzzle only Sam understood. What was he planning? Nobody knew yet. Sam's nights were quiet, but they were busy in their own way. After writing in his notebook, he'd lock up the storage room and walk to a quiet corner of the building. There, where nobody could hear, he'd make phone calls. He'd pull out an old phone from his pocket, dial a number, and speak in a low, serious voice. "It's almost time," he'd say, or "I've got more proof now." The person on the other end would say something back, but Sam kept his words short. "Just wait," he'd whisper. "It's coming." Time for what? Proof of what? The office was dark and empty, but Sam's words felt like they carried a big, heavy secret. Back in the daytime, Bradley kept pushing Sam harder. One morning he saw Sam sweeping near the copy machine and decided to make trouble. He grabbed a stack of papers and tore them up, letting the pieces flutter to the floor like snow. "Clean that up, janitor," he barked, loud enough for everyone in the office to hear. The workers looked up from their desks, some giggling, some pretending not to see. Sam didn't flinch. He walked over with his broom, sweeping the paper bits into a neat pile. His hands were steady, his face blank. But his eyes, they locked onto Bradley for just a second, and they were sharp like a knife. Bradley laughed, but his laugh sounded nervous, like he felt something he couldn't explain. The other workers weren't much help. Most of them followed Bradley's lead. They'd leave their trash on the floor knowing Sam would pick it up. They'd spill soda and walk away, not even saying sorry. One guy named Jake started copying Bradley. He'd toss pens on the floor when Sam was nearby and say, "Hey, janitor, you dropped something." With a mean chuckle, Sam would pick up the pens, his face calm as ever. But he'd add Jake's name to his notebook with a little note. "Copied Bradley. Mean." Not everyone was bad, though. Mia, the new worker, was different. One day, she saw Bradley knock over Sam's cart and stopped to help. "That's not fair," she said, picking up a fallen bucket. Sam smiled just a little. "Thanks, Mia," he said. She looked at him, curious. "You don't let him get to you, do you?" she asked. Sam shrugged. "I've got my ways," he said, his voice soft but strong. Mia tilted her head like she wanted to ask more, but she didn't. Sam liked that. He wrote her name in his notebook again, with another star next to it. As the days turned into weeks, Sam's notebook got fuller. He wrote down everything: Bradley's lies, Jake's mean tricks, the way the workers ignored him. But he also wrote down good things like Mia's kindness or the way one worker, Sarah, left a thank you note on her desk for Sam. The notebook was like a map of Skyline Tech, showing who was mean and who was nice. And every note brought Sam closer to something big, something that would make everyone stop and stare. Bradley didn't know it, but he was walking into a trap. Every mean note he left, every mess he made, every time he yelled, it was all being watched. Sam's calm face hid a fire inside him. He wasn't just a janitor. He was someone with a plan, someone who was ready to change everything. His phone calls got more serious. "I've got enough now," he said one night, his voice low. "It's almost ready." The office was quiet, but the air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. Sam kept working day after day, mopping floors and emptying trash. But he was different now. His steps were a little surer, his eyes a little brighter. He wasn't just cleaning anymore. He was waiting for the perfect moment. The workers didn't see it. Bradley didn't see it, but Sam knew. His secret was growing like a balloon ready to burst. What was he hiding? What was his plan? The answer was close, so close, and it was going to shake Skyline Tech to its core. The big company meeting at Skyline Tech was all anyone could talk about. It was the most important day of the year, and everyone was buzzing with excitement. Mr. Bradley, the mean manager, was ready to show off his genius plan to the board. He thought it would make him look like a superstar. The workers whispered about it in the hallways, saying Bradley was sure to get a big promotion. They crowded into the huge conference room with its long table and shiny glass walls. Everyone was there, workers in fancy suits, managers with big smiles, and the board members sitting at the front, looking serious. Bradley stood at the head of the room, grinning like he owned the whole company. His suit was perfect, his hair slicked back, and his voice boomed with confidence. He held a stack of papers, ready to present his big ideas. The workers clapped when he started talking, even though some of them looked nervous. Bradley didn't notice. He was too busy acting like a king, waving his hands and making big promises. "This plan will make Skyline Tech the best," he said, his eyes shining with pride. In the back of the room, Sam stood quietly. He was still in his plain gray janitor's uniform, the one he wore every day. His mop was leaning against the wall and his cleaning cart was tucked in a corner. Nobody paid attention to him. To them, he was just the janitor, the guy who cleaned up their messes. Some workers didn't even see him standing there, blending into the background like he always did. But Sam wasn't nervous. His face was calm, his hands steady. He watched Bradley with sharp eyes, like a cat watching a mouse. Something big was about to happen, something nobody expected. The board chair, a tall woman with glasses named Ms. Thompson, stood up. The room got quiet. Everyone turned to look at her. "Before Mr. Bradley continues," she said, her voice clear and strong, "we have a special announcement." The workers whispered to each other, confused. Bradley's grin faltered just a little. He didn't like surprises. He wanted to be the star of the meeting. Ms. Thompson looked around the room, then nodded toward the back. "Sam, please come forward," she said. All eyes turned, heads swiveled, and jaws dropped. Sam, the janitor, why was he being called? Workers stared as Sam stepped forward, slow and steady. He reached up and pulled off his old cap, the one he always wore. His hair was neat and his face was calm, but there was something different about him now. He didn't look like just a janitor anymore. He looked important. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Bradley's eyes got wide, like he was seeing a ghost. Sam stood at the front of the room, right next to Ms. Thompson. He looked out at the crowd, his eyes steady and strong. Then he spoke, and his voice was loud and clear, not soft like when he said, "Yes, sir," to Bradley. "I'm Samuel Carter," he said, "and I'm the owner of Skyline Tech." The room froze. It was like time stopped. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Bradley's jaw dropped so far it almost hit the floor. His face turned pale, like he'd seen something impossible. The workers gasped, their eyes huge. Some whispered, "The janitor, the owner," others just stared, too shocked to say anything. Mia, the nice worker, smiled a little, like she'd known Sam was special all along. But Bradley, he looked like he wanted to disappear. Sam kept talking, his voice calm but powerful. "I started Skyline Tech years ago," he said. "I built this company from nothing, but I wanted to see how it was really running, so I stepped back. I pretended to be a janitor to watch everyone, to see who was kind, to see who was honest, and to see who was." He looked right at Bradley when he said that last part. Bradley's hands shook and his papers slipped to the floor. He knew he was in trouble. Sam held up his little notebook, the one he'd been writing in every night. It was small, but it looked heavy, like it held all the secrets of Skyline Tech. "I've been watching," Sam said. "I saw everything. I saw who worked hard, I saw who helped others, and I saw who lied, cheated, and hurt people." His eyes locked onto Bradley again, and the room felt like it was holding its breath. Bradley's face was red now, and he was sweating. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. "I have proof," Sam said, tapping his notebook. "Proof of who's been good to this company and who's been bad. I know who changed reports to look better. I know who yelled at workers for no reason. I know who threw trash on the floor just to make my job harder." Every word was like a hammer, and Bradley looked smaller with each one. The workers started whispering again, looking at Bradley with wide eyes. They were starting to understand. Sam wasn't just a janitor. He was the boss, the real boss. Ms. Thompson nodded, her face serious. "Mr. Carter has shared his findings with the board," she said. "We've seen his notes, we've seen the proof, and we're taking action." She looked at Bradley, and her eyes were like ice. Bradley shrank in his seat, his grin long gone. He knew he'd been caught. All his mean words, all his tricks, all his bullying, they were coming back to bite him. And Sam had the proof to make sure everyone knew. Sam stood tall, his janitor's uniform looking different now. It wasn't just a uniform anymore. It was like a badge of honor, showing he'd been strong enough to stay quiet, to watch, to wait. The workers stared at him, some with shame, some with awe. They'd ignored him, laughed at him, left messes for him to clean. But now they saw him, really saw him. Sam wasn't just the guy with the mop. He was Samuel Carter, the man who built Skyline Tech, the man who'd outsmarted everyone. Bradley tried to speak. This can't be true," he stammered. "He's just a janitor." But his voice was weak and nobody listened. The board members shook their heads. The workers turned away from him. Sam just looked at Bradley, his face calm but strong. You thought I was nothing, Sam said quietly, but I was watching, and now everyone knows who you really are. The room felt electric, like a storm had just broken. Sam's reveal was like a bright light showing the truth about everything. Bradley's genius plan didn't matter anymore. His big smirk was gone. Sam had taken the stage, and he wasn't just a janitor. He was the owner, the hero, the one who'd been planning this moment all along, and nobody would ever forget it. Hey everyone, let's talk about what happened after I told Karen she was wrong. This is the part where everything gets fixed, and it feels so good. Karen, the mean HOA lady, got in big trouble, and my grandma Mabel finally got the respect she deserved. Ready? Let's go. After I stood up at the HOA meeting and said, "I'm Ethan Carter, the judge who signed the tenant rights bill," the room went crazy. People clapped and cheered. Karen's face turned super red like a tomato. She tried to talk back. "This isn't fair," she shouted. "You can't do this." But nobody listened to her anymore. They were done with her mean ways. I held up my big file of proof. It had all the bad things Karen did, her nasty letters, her fake fines, and even the eviction notice she tried to use to kick Grandma out. I read some of it out loud. "Karen, you broke the law," I said. "You can't fine people for silly things like pink flamingos or old mailboxes, and you can't scare people out of their homes." The neighbors nodded. Some even said, "Yeah, that's right." The HOA board was there too. They're the people who make the neighborhood rules. They looked mad, not at me, but at Karen. One of them, Mr. Jenkins, stood up. "Karen, you're done," he said. "You can't be our president anymore." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked like she wanted to run away. That night, the HOA board voted to kick her out of her job. Everyone agreed she had to go. But that wasn't all. I sent my file to the state. That's like the big bosses who make sure HOAs follow the law. They read everything and got super serious. They found out Karen wasn't just being mean, she was stealing. Yep, she took money from the HOA that was supposed to fix the park and clean the streets. Instead, she kept it for herself. The state said, "Karen, you have to pay big fines." Those fines were a lot of money, and she couldn't wiggle out of it. Some people even said she might go to jail. Can you believe it? Karen thought she was so smart, but now she was in huge trouble. While all this was happening, Grandma Mabel sat in the back of the room. She didn't say much, just watched with her kind eye. When I finished talking, she smiled at me. That smile made me feel so proud. I knew I did the right thing. The neighbors started coming up to her. "Mabel, we're so sorry," said Mrs. Lopez, who lived next door. "We should have helped you sooner." Another neighbor, Timmy's mom, brought Grandma a big bunch of flowers. "You're the best, Mabel," she said. Grandma just hugged them. "It's okay," she said. "I'm just happy to stay in my home." That's how nice Grandma is. She forgives everyone, even when they mess up. Grandma's house was safe now. Her pink flamingos stayed in the yard, shining bright in the sun. Her old mailbox, still there, wobbly but loved. She could hang her clothes outside to dry and nobody would complain. The neighbors promised to never let another Karen boss them around. They even started a new rule: no more silly fines for things like flowers or toys in the yard. Willow Creek felt like a happy place again, full of laughter and friendly waves. The next day I walked with Grandma to her garden. She was watering her roses, humming a little song. "Ethan," she said, "you're my hero." I blushed. "Aw, Grandma, I just did what was right." She gave me a big hug and we ate her famous chocolate chip cookies on the porch. The kids in the neighborhood ran by, playing tag. They stopped to wave at Grandma. "Hi, Mabel," they shouted. She waved back, her smile as warm as the sunshine. Karen, she didn't stay in Willow Creek. A few days later, we heard she packed her bags and moved far away. Some neighbors said she went to another town to boss people around, but I bet she's more careful now. She'll never forget the day she tried to mess with Mabel and ran into me. I like to think she learned her lesson: don't be mean, because you never know who's watching. The neighbors started treating Grandma like a queen. They brought her pies, helped fix her fence, and even painted her porch. Mr. Lopez, who got fined for his truck, said, "Mabel, you're the heart of this neighborhood." Timmy, the kid who loved riding his bike, made her a card that said, "Best Grandma ever." Grandma put it on her fridge and smiled every time she saw it. It made my heart feel full, knowing everyone saw how special she was. I went back to my job as a judge, but I made sure to visit Grandma more often. I also kept an eye on the new HOA board. They were nice and fair, and they asked Grandma for advice on new rules. Can you imagine that? Grandma, who Karen called Trouble, was now helping run the neighborhood. She didn't want to be in charge, but she loved sharing ideas, like planting more flowers in the park or having a big picnic for everyone. Willow Creek wasn't just peaceful, it was better than ever. The park got new swings, the streets were cleaner, and people smiled more. Nobody was afraid of getting a mean letter anymore. Grandma's house was still the coziest spot in town, with her roses blooming and her flamingos standing tall. Every time I visited, I felt like everything was right in the world. This whole adventure showed me something important. When you stand up for what's right, good things happen. Karen thought she could push people around, but she was wrong. Grandma might be quiet, but she's strong, and I was proud to be her backup. The neighbors learned to stick together, and they'll never let a bully like Karen take over again. Hey, you awesome people. We're at the end of this wild story about my grandma Mabel and that mean HOA lady, Karen. Everything turned out great. Grandma's safe, Karen's gone, and Willow Creek is happy again. Now let's talk about what this all means. This part is super important because it's about standing tall, being strong, and never letting bullies win. Ready? Let's dive in. Grandma's little house is still the coziest spot in Willow Creek. Her roses bloom bright, and those pink flamingos, they sparkle in the sun like they're smiling. Every time I visit, Grandma's baking cookies or watering her garden, humming a happy tune. The kids in the neighborhood wave and shout, "Hi, Mabel." She waves back, her smile big and warm. It makes my heart feel full knowing she's loved and safe. I'm back in my courtroom being a judge. I make sure people like Karen don't hurt others. But this story taught me something big, and I want to share it with you. Here's the thing, sometimes the quietest person has the most power. Grandma didn't yell or fight, but she was strong in her own way. She kept being kind, even when Karen was mean. And me, I was her backup, ready to stand up when she needed me. Karen thought she was the boss, bossing everyone around with her clipboard and nasty letters. But she didn't know the truth about me being a judge. She didn't see it coming, and that's what happens to bullies. They think they're in charge, but they're wrong. This story isn't just about Grandma and me. It's about you too. Maybe you've met someone like Karen, someone who tries to make others feel small. Maybe it's at school where a kid picks on others, or at home where someone's unfair. Or maybe it's somewhere else like a neighbor who's mean. Here, what I learned: you don't have to be loud or big to be strong. You can be quiet like Grandma and still have power. You can stand up for what's right, even if it feels scary. And you know what? You might have backup too, friends, family, or even someone you don't expect. Think about it. When I stood up to Karen, I wasn't alone. The neighbors cheered. They were tired of her too. They helped make things right. That's another big lesson. When people work together, they can stop bullies. If you see someone being treated badly, you can help. Maybe you tell a teacher, talk to your parents, or just be a friend to the person who's sad. Every little thing you do matters. It's like planting a tiny seed that grows into something big, like Grandma's roses. I want you to feel strong after hearing this story. You have power even if you don't feel it sometimes. Maybe you're shy or think you're not important, but you are. You can make a difference, just like I did when I showed Karen my file of proof. You don't need to be a judge or have a big job. You can be you, and that's enough. Stand up for what's fair, be kind like Grandma, and don't let anyone make you feel small. Let's make a promise. Next time you see someone being mean, do something. It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe you say, "That's not nice," or help the person who's being picked on. Maybe you tell someone who can fix it.